In this second Sunday of Lent, we hear about Jesus and his disciples going up the mountain, where Jesus is transformed. And in that moment, as the witnesses are there and see the glory of God and the mysteries, they themselves are transformed. Some of you may know that I spent over 15 years being a Ukrainian Catholic. What is that? Well, when my mother's church closed, she became very angry and decided she wasn't going to church anymore. I had felt I needed something as a young man and ventured across the street to South 2nd Street and immersed myself in the Ukrainian community that is there now, St. Nicholas. And becoming a part of that community is very different. I've grown up Italian, Anglo-Saxon, a Hudsonite my entire life, but this was different. How the people, the local Ukrainians, treated me was very unique. I can't explain it. Like being part of a family that you never knew you had. Aunts and uncles, they always tried to feed me, just like the Italians, but it was different. I became part of them. And I remember that I became so close with the priest that was there at the time that I went to visit Ukraine. And this is just when the Soviet Union had fallen apart and Ukraine became independent. And I remember going there. Now, I can do the entire Mass in Ukrainian. I can celebrate it. I can participate in Old Slavonic even. But I couldn't have a conversation to save my life in Ukrainian. But here I go to Ukraine, speaking not a lick of the language. And the people were so warm and kind, and there's plenty of stories I could tell you, but one that touched my heart as I visited Lviv, Truskavets, the Crimean, all the places that you see on the news, I remember being there. But one thing that was unique, in the countryside, unspoiled by progress, we'd be driving or walking, and in the middle of town, you'd see animals, and you'd see a mound of dirt and a cross on top. No sign, no nothing. And people, as they would pass this mound, didn't look at it, would look straight ahead. But as they passed, they made the sign of the cross, bowed their head, and kept walking. I thought, this is strange. When we went into the city, there's buildings, large buildings, there's a vacant lot. And in the middle of the vacant lot, a mound of dirt with a cross on top, maybe some flowers. Strange. As cars are driving by, I look in the window of the people in the car. They make the sign of the cross, bow their heads while they're driving. The people I'm with do the same thing, but never say anything. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, that deacon will ask anybody anything. But I didn't. It was like I didn't know what was going on. Everywhere we went. Finally, we were visiting, this friend of mine took me to a seminary that had just reopened. It was fascinating. And finally, I got the courage, and I asked the rector of the seminary, you've got to explain it. What are these mounds of dirt that I keep seeing everywhere? And he looked at the people I was with, and they looked down, They didn't say anything. I said, please tell me. You see, when the Soviets were in control of Ukraine, they got this habit. They didn't like troublemakers. And once a month, like clockwork, people who were troublemakers disappeared. They'd come in the night, bang on your door, and they'd take the offending individual who was never seen again. And this went on month after month, year after year, for almost 50 years. When the government finally changed, the families went out to search for the mass graves, and almost every town, almost every municipality, every city had at least one mass grave. They put a mound of dirt and a cross on top. So I said, so did they go exhume the bodies, give them proper burials? The rector looked at me and said, no. I said, why? He says, that's our reminder of what happens when we let the darkness in. We must never forget. Now, those mounds may be gone today. I don't know. That was years ago. But they wanted those mounds to stay there because they wanted the people to never forget what it was like to be occupied by a foreign power, never to forget what it was like to be overpowered by someone else. And it was at that moment that I felt a connection, a kindness for people that I didn't know. People that have always been occupied or dominated and finally wanted to be free. For 15 years, I celebrated the Mass of St. John Chrysostom, a beautiful Mass. And in that Mass, there's this haunting melody you hear. Sviati Bože, sviati kripki, sviati besmrtni pormi luinas, sviati, and they just keep singing it. It's translated as Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us. I hear that melody in my sleep, and I pray that God do have mercy on our souls. For all the people who are fighting, who wish to be free. For the people who hope and fear in their homes. I want to be clear that I am not making a political statement. That is the farthest of my intent. I am making a holy statement that I pray that we all be transformed, that the people of this world feel love in their hearts and let the hate go. Because for years, there were mounds of dirt to remind them that there is evil in this world. And if we allow it to encroach, it will take over us. I pray that the darkness not continue. And I pray that God give us strength to handle it. I don't know how, I don't know when, and I don't know who. But I know that God knows that we're better than this. May God bless you. May God have mercy on you. And may our hearts be transformed to be the peace-loving people that God created us to be.